Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Hi, everyone. This is week 49, and our first coincidence miracle has to do with one day I was in prayer. And while I was praying and talking to God and listening to God, I got inspired to write a letter to a priest about a problem I noticed that needed some attention. And I was inspired that God wanted me to do this because the priest was working on the problem, and God gave me a suggestion that should help him. And since I was getting inspired by God to do it, I thought it was pretty important. So I prayed about it, and then I thought about it, and I was thinking about it for a while that morning, and I went back to prayer, and I told Jesus I didn't feel qualified. I mean, priests have each other. There's thousands and thousands of priests they can talk to. They have bishops. I mean, there's no reason why I have to come out of the scenes where I am. I'm not a priest. I'm not in their society, so to speak, and but Jesus inspired me that that's the way he works in history. He has people suggesting, and that when you do suggest something to a priest, if it matches what's going on in his soul and in his spirit, what the priest is getting from God, it is noticeable to the priest, because the priest doesn't expect a lay person to come up with a priestly topic and a priestly answer, so it has more impact if it comes from a lay person. So he convinced me of that, and so I sat down and worked up a draft, and then I decided to wait 5 minutes and sit down quietly to see if there was anything wrong with the draft, anything else I should do. So I asked Jesus, is there anything else I should say in this draft? Did I end it properly? Is there anything else to do? And Jesus inspired me to go to the Catholic Catechism, pick it up, and open it at random and see what it says. Now, that's an amazing answer, right? I'm asking if there's anything else I should do. I didn't get any answer except go to the Catholic Catechism, open it at random. So I did. I went to the Catholic Catechism. I held it in my hand reverently and thinking that, God was going to give me a message when I opened it. So I don't want to just be arbitrary. I want to be careful. So I very carefully got a sense of where to open. So I placed my thumbnails in a certain place on the side of it before I opened it. And I felt that's the place to open to. So I put my nails in and I opened it up. And unbelievable shock for me was the article I opened up to, and by the way, I should tell you, the Catholic Catechism has 2,865 answers in it. There's 2,865, call it 3,000 topics that you can look up in the Catechism that have been answered by saints over the last 2,000 years, all kinds of questions that have come up, and all their wisest answers are in the Catechism. 3,000 different topics. You can look it up in the index in the back. Look up whatever topic you want to, almost, really, 3,000 topics. And I opened to exactly, precisely, my eyes landed on the heading, and the heading was exactly the problem I was writing to the priest about. So, as you can imagine, I was tearful and excited and overjoyed that God did this for me. So I sent the email out. I haven't gotten feedback yet, but I know I did what God wanted me to do, especially since the Catechism just confirmed it. So this is a very good example of a coincidence miracle, opening the Catechism coincidentally, and it matches what God was telling me to write about. And this has happened several times in my life over the last 50 years. I mean, when God says to do that, go to the book, open it. If you read my 2 books, you'll see he's done that a few times in my life with amazing results. But if it happens to you several times in your life, then you know that God does things that way. And you can see his loving consideration of us. He knows we're, frail humans. We're not gods. We're trying to do his will. And so he does take the time and the trouble to show us that he's really talking to us, and he gives us these confirmations. As I say in my book, I had that happen a couple of times, amazing results. He proved to me by that method that he wrote those 2 books. I was just a typist. Also, for those of you who don't know, St. Francis of Assisi is also famous for doing that with the Bible. He would, when he was asking God what to do, he'd be inspired by God, open the Bible at random, and St. Francis of Assisi would get answers that way too. So I encourage you, when you're praying and talking to God, if he says to go open a book at random, that you won't be too shocked. Our next coincidence miracle is something that you probably will become familiar with, or if you've listened to a lot of our weekly reports. Very often God sends confirmations by showing us numbers, because numbers have meaning. And if you don't know what numbers mean, well, God will use other methods with you. But if you get my books, or if you go on our website, you can listen for free to the meaning of numbers. And it's like Morse code. When you know the numbers, then God can use the numbers to give you quick confirmations for things. So this is another example. I'm sure you've heard about 20 already in all of the prior podcasts, but this is another meaningful one. During December, I was extremely busy. I was burning the midnight oil. I was working what felt like 24/7 because during December I was trying to advertise our books, because they're tremendous gifts to give people. They're life-changing. They confirm a lot of things of what you're hearing on our weekly podcast, but it convinces people they can talk to God. It gives a lot of evidence and proofs. And so I was working hard, getting a lot of advertising, sending out a lot of Facebook and LinkedIn messages every day, calling a lot of people, really putting every ounce of energy I could, because it's the season where people could do a lot of good if they could get books to their friends and their family and change their lives. If they're not talking to God now, it's a great gift to give somebody. And so I was doing that, and I was really, for about 3 days, I didn't go out at all. I was, as soon as I got up, I got started, and I would go to finish at the end of the day and be very exhausted. And so I was getting cabin fever. And I was talking to God and praying, of course, because, as I was doing the advertising and whatever I was saying in my emails or any of my advertising posts, I was asking God what to do and listening to how and making sure I heard him correctly. I mean, that's the process, right? If you want to make sure that you're hearing God correctly, you have to be careful and get confirmations. And so God was doing that for me. Proving to me he wanted me to do things through various means. People would call and say the same thing, or the afternoon mail would say the same thing. In many ways, he would confirm, and those confirmations from God look like coincidence miracles. Coincidentally, you get a confirmation, So I was really busy, but happy to be doing all this and seeing all of the confirmations from God. Well, he inspired me to take a break. He said, Tony, take a break. I haven't talked to you. We haven't had a nice, calm discussion about, just anything at all. You've been straining and stressing. And so he knows when we're at that point. So he encouraged me to take off, go for a walk in a park. So I got in the car and drove off. And I do this often, as if you've heard in the past podcasts. I walk and talk with God. I try to do that as often as I can, every day if possible. 15, 20 minutes or half an hour walking and talking to God is a lot of inspirations, a lot of wisdom comes to us in that process, just talking to Him as a friend. So I took off and I got to an intersection on the way to the park, and lo and behold, for the 6th time or 7th time this year now, every time I get to this, well, not every time, but this was the 7th time I got to this 4-way stop intersection. I stop at my stop sign, and across from me at the other stop sign coming through the intersection is a license plate with the letters GGG. That's like G for God. So it's 3 capital G's. And in numbers, because letters and numbers are relatable, the 7th letter, number 7 in the alphabet, is the letter G. So when you see 3 G's, you can also interpret that to be 3 sevens, which is God's number. So it's like seeing a number 777. So I just want to point out to you, he told me to take a break, and I drove at a certain speed. I didn't know how fast to drive. I was following the speed limit. But he knew all that. But the moment he told me to leave and go for this walk, I had to drive over to the park. He also had this other car coming. I don't know how he does all this, but I'm telling you, 7 times this year, I got to that same intersection, and this happened. So it's a coincidence miracle par excellence. And the 3 G's, knowing that means 3 sevens, was a tremendous blessing for me. Our next coincidence miracle has to do with a friend of mine who had a dream. She gets dreams often that tell her a lot of things. St. Joseph in Scriptures, the Blessed Virgin Mary's husband, St. Joseph used to get dreams from God which told him what to do. And it's clear in the Bible. It says that. So this woman, she does. She gets dreams, and I've known her for about 15 years now. And she gets amazing dreams that tell her a lot of things in her life. So she had this mysterious dream, and she called me about it and was asking me what I thought about certain aspects of it. And what stood out in the dream was she kept seeing the number 51. And she was wondering what the 51 meant. And since my book talks about how numbers can mean certain kinds of things, she called me about that. So we talked for quite a while, and she asked me for some input and some advice. I told her I would pray about it and I would get back to her. And that's the only way to give people advice, is ask God what to say and do. And so we had a nice discussion. I was impressed because it was a very pictorial dream. It was very pleasant and happy. I think she said something like she was at the beach or she was at some vacation spot, and she was really enjoying the dream, but the number 51 kept coming up. And so after we spoke, I went to pray about it, and I started asking God about it. I was getting inspirations from God on what to do, but he said, Tony, let's talk about it later. And I noticed it was close to the time for the news, so I turned the radio on, or actually, what I should tell you is Jesus inspired me to turn the radio on. And as soon as I turned the radio on, the song that was being sung was Keith Urban. He was singing the song, You'll Think of Me, You'll Think of Me, You'll Think of Me. And Jesus said, call her back and tell her she just has to talk to me. She doesn't have to worry about the numbers. I will explain what the dream means to her if she will ask me. God wants everyone to have discussions with him. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.